Hello and welcome to Kushti TV. Always remember to click and subscribe to the Straight Talking YouTube channel, where my specialist subjects are boxing and golf. I also delve into other areas of interest. Now today's topic is it's boxing. It's of a boxer and it's borders. Well, it involves boxing and true crime. It was the shooting and the death of the once legendary, extremely famous movie star, radio star, which is very big back in the day, still is of course, of Freddie Mills. Yes, the legendary champion of the world. He beat Gus Lazanovich at the White City Stadium to lift the heavyweight championship of the world. But today I'm going to focus on, I'm fairly convinced, who shot him, and I'm going to bring that to light. I'm going to shine the torch on two of London's most famous ever criminals, the Kray twins, who many believed are the culprits for killing Freddie Mills. We're going to go through that. And there was a Russian-born Jewish gangster that was based in America called Meyer Lanksy, was also shortlisted. But I'm going to run through some facts with you, and I'm going to give you my opinion to what I know, yes, to what's written down, all the facts, and I'm going to bring to light who shot Freddie Mills. Yes, it happened in 1965. Freddie Mills, on the 25th of July, I believe it was, after boxing. He had a glorious glitzy career in acting and radio. So fortunes of money of his time, and he delved into the nightclub business. And Freddie owned his own nightclub, and at the back of the nightclub, in a very nice car of its time, a Citroen top of the range car, Freddie was found dead with a gunshot wound to the head, dead, aged just 46. Very sad, but the focus is who shot Freddie Mills. Early one morning, originally it was deemed as suicide, and early one morning Freddie's wife, Chrissy, had opened the door. This is now some 2 years post his death, to meet a gentleman early one morning, and to have a big set of papers ready and the kettle on ready for a good chat. The gentleman that attended her house was none other than the very famous ex-boxer Leonard Nipper Reid. He was a famous boxer, but he brought his boxing to fame through that of being a famous police officer who had brought, he was a CID, he was at the top chain, he brought down the Krays and many more. So they sat down over a cup of tea, and it was early in the morning, so nobody had seen the comings and the goings of Leonard Nipper Reid go to Freddie's house, which now is occupied by his wife, Chrissy. Chrissy sits down over the brew in a lengthy conversation, and she is convinced that it is the Krays that murdered her husband for the taking over of his nightclub. Okay, so the brothers are now prime suspects. Now the other suspect in this later will become Meyer Lanksy, many people's opinions. But a crime reporter, a journalist, reported in 2021 that it was Reggie Craig that had shot and killed Freddie Mills. Now, Mills was found with a gunshot wound on July 25th, as I said earlier, of July 1965. And Ronnie Craig committed the murder in the Blind Beggar pub, which we know of, to that of George Cornell. And of course his wife Chrissy suspects the Krays. We don't know if it's Ronnie or Reggie that shoots her husband, in her opinion. They want to take over his nightclub because he's not paying them the protection racket that they're demanding. That's the reason. So you don't pay, you get out. If you don't, you'll hear the power of the Kray twins. So now this journalist, 2021, quoted, he knew the Krays well, he quoted that it was Reggie Craig. Now if we go back to the Kray movie in 1966, of course the Kray movie was in 1966, but the killing of Jack the Hat McVitie was in 1966 after Ronnie had killed George Cornell, and Ronnie was the more psychotic, dictative brother of the two. Apparently Reggie was a fairly calm guy, apparently, and yeah, he could have a fight, and he was a better boxer of the two. He could have a fight and a punch up, but he wasn't that interested in inflicting pain and agony on others as to that of Ronnie, twin brother of course. So Ronnie was in 1966 seen in the movie, by all accounts, by cousin Ronnie Hart, the Lambranis, the famous Chris and Tony Lambrani, that were present along with others. They all stated that Ronnie Cray was really pushing hard for Reggie Craig to commit his first murder. Yeah, so this is some 14 months or so after the boxer was killed. So I'm ruling out. I met Chris Lambriani, sadly passed away. Sorry, Tony Lambriani I met, sadly passed away. I think Chris is still with us and going well. Nice man, Tony, twice I knew him. They all, and Ronnie up, they all admitted that he was edged on by Ronnie Cray to commit his first murder. So I'm dismissing, I'm going back with what these guys said. They were staunch guys. I'm dismissing that Ronnie Cray killed him, sorry, Reggie Cray had killed him. Totally dismissing that, because I think his first murder was that of Jack the Hat McVitie, edged on by his psychotic brother. So, did that lead Ronnie Cray to kill him? Well, it wasn't the MO. I mean, if we think that Freddie Foreman admissions of the involvement of killing Frankie the Mad Axeman, Frankie Mitchell. So everything's really been exposed. They've gone to prison for it, they've been acquitted for it. There were countless violence acts, but the murders were really revealed, and they always constantly said, yeah, that we didn't have nothing to do with Freddie's murder. Why would we? You know, it wasn't their style. In fact, they were boxing fans. They loved celebrities, and they were in awe. They never killed any celebrities. They killed gangsters and villains. And Freddie was a hard man. Of course, we know he's hard. He's been around the block. He's champion of the world. He was made on toughness, but he wasn't a gangster. He was a boxing sportsman and a celebrity thereafter. So they weren't in the business of killing these type of people. So it really didn't fit their MO. And then there was a guy called Meyer Lanksy. Meyer Lanksy has come to London, had some involvements in casinos. Well, and it was reported that a gentleman in a documentary stated his father had said to a gentleman, who he later then known to be Meyer Lanksy, that he smiled and nodded and said, smirked as he said, the passing of Freddie, that's it, he's done, he's gone, and apparently he smiled. Well, Meyer Lanksy, very clever man, was apparently the brains behind all the wealth of the mafia in America, and most of the brains, financial advisor, very clever man. Did have a ruthless side to him apparently, but when we compare, he's got Meyer Lanksy's got some investment in the London casinos. He's got investment in casinos. Freddie's was a nightclub, it wasn't a casino. So he's now 63 years of age. I know gangsters don't retire. He's now 63 years of age. when he travels to London, and as his investments, and I'm sure he's doing okay with his investments in the casinos. But Freddie's nightclub was failing. You've got to remember, now if you have a piece of land in the West End anywhere, it is gold dust. But in the 60s, land and clubs, even lease or freeholds, were more ready and available and more affordable. It's only the modern, it's always been a place to go, but I mean it's the wealth of property has crept up probably since the 60s, sort of post 70s has gone engulfed into a massive, you know, just massive wealth. Every building and its houses and land, etc., etc. But in them days, it was still desired, but not so hugely. So they wanted this failing club that anybody could have really got hold of anyway, and there were no reason for Meyer Lanksy to kill Freddie Mills, none whatsoever. That was it. And then there's a report that there's gambling debt involved. He owed people a gambling debt. Well, again, the MO there of somebody in gambling debt is a warning. You know, it's just not death. I mean, how many times do you see people get continuously hassled over gambling debts? You know, like in the Rocky movie, you break a thumb and then an at wrist and then an hand. It's been notorious knowledge. You don't just go and put one in somebody's head over a gambling debt. So did the Krays kill him? No, the Krays didn't kill him. I'll tell you why. It wasn't their MO on their murders, and murders that were ordered on all three occasions. You know, there were people present, and we could arguably say, well, how do we know who was present on that night? Well, we don't know 100% sure, but with all the stories, all the tales, we got all to light the Krays murders, yeah. But Reggie didn't commit his murder to this stage, and as I say, they actually admitted saying we loved Freddie Mills. He was one of the nation's favourite people, and Meyer Lanksy had no reason. He didn't owe him any money, and if he did, it would have been a thumb break or an hand break or an arm. He wouldn't have been shot in the head. His nightclub was failing. Anybody could have went and pulled it. So who killed Freddie Mills? Well, I'm going to tell you who killed Freddie Mills in a moment. Freddie Mills himself was an heavy gambler. When he died, he left a wealth of £3,781. £3,781, a few bob in 1965. It's nothing, it's pittance to the money he had. This was a serious wealthy earner in his day, serious. I mean, this was a David Beckham of his day. Literally, it's like saying David Beckham's got 300 grand now. It's a few quid, but it's, you know, what is that to David Beckham? He literally, after debts was paid and stuff, he left his wife Chrissy with £851. Of course, Freddie had been knocked around the head with, you know, he was a hard man with many blows. There was reports that this, you know, brought on his depression, but just the best of people get depressed, don't they? He was fairly broke after debts were paid, £851, and it was reported he had some gambling debt, and this collectively led to a lot of depression. There's been one journalist said that he was wrestled in the back of his car. Somebody had taken a gun off of Freddie and shot him with it. Wrestled in the back of the car. Freddie Mills, 46-year-old, still a strong man. You know, strong as an ox, light heavyweight, an heavyweight contender. So you imagine somebody like Meyer Lanksy or Zip Man or Reggie Craig trying to take a gun off Freddie Mills. I'm sorry, mate, you were tough guys, but you weren't that tough. You wouldn't have taken a gun off of Freddie. So Freddie Mills had been a boxer on the boxing booth. He was in a state of depression. He went to see a lady who he knew from the fairgrounds. Now, he'd been a booth fighter, so he spent many years around the fairground. And he borrowed a gun off of Mary Ronaldson, a 2.2 gun, and that she had on the fairgrounds. Now, Freddie would know these guns from the fairground, the 2.2, and it's a powerful gun, but sometimes not fatally powerful. And he was, there's been ludicrous accusations that Freddie had been involved in all sorts of naughty and seedy activity, but none of this, no arrest, no nothing, none of this, no official arrest, none of this has ever come to light. So we've got to go on the facts. We've got to be fair here to Freddie. We've got to give the clear benefit of the doubt. All those accusations are easy to make. The man has passed on. But what I'm telling you now are the facts. He borrowed a gun from a fairground, which he would have knew well, because he spent years and years, again, as I say, on the booths. And he knew Mary Ronaldson from the Battersea Fair. She gave him a 2.2 air rifle. And the rifle was, say, this long. You got to remember, somebody has forced the murder theorists here have forced Freddie into the back of the car, and they forced him. They forced this strong man into the back of the car. But Freddie's a streetwise guy. He might not be a gangster, but come on, mate. He's come from the spit and sawdust. He's one of the hardest men in the country, in the world. You know this because he's a boxer in Queensberry rules. Don't think this man can't knock out 20 Reggie Craigs. Trust me, you know, 3 at a time he would. Maybe not all 20 at once, but in the nicest way to the Craigs, you can fight a bit, mate. You couldn't fight like this guy. So Freddie was not forcefully put in the back of a car, all right? The reason Freddie went in the back of the car, because he got this 2.2 air rifle, right? And he had taken his own life. Freddie Mills killed Freddie Mills. If he's in the front of the car, he wouldn't be able to extend the gun, you know, his steering wheel, etc. So he conveniently sat in the back of the car, and furthermore to cement this, the 2.2 rifle, Freddie knows that if you shoot yourself in the forehead with it, it's probably a good chance it's not going to be strong enough to kill you. So he's sat in the back of his car, in a state of depression, bless him. He's pointed a gun in his eye. He found the gunshot wound was through his eye. And he knew that rifle, he was a strong man, if it hit him somewhere in the skull, it probably might not have been enough to do him. But he was found shot dead with a gunshot wound right through his eye. And I know the family don't like to see, who wants to see anybody in their life? And I know sometimes it's not deemed as a godly way, but I pray to God that God himself sees people with depression and don't see them as a people an easy way out, because it's a sad way for families with so many questions unanswered. So I pray for the sake of Freddie Mills' soul and his family that our good Lord does see that the man wasn't fit in the mind, as so many people, and he does have mercy on their souls and takes them to the kingdom of heaven, just like the rest of us. I really do believe that, and God's a stronger man than me, and he can see that. But for me, Freddie Mills killed Freddie Mills due to depression. Gambling's an horrendous thing. He was depressed, barely any money, skint, and that's the way I see it. The way his death was met. It's only somebody who knew a 2.2 would need to know that he would go through. He knew these guns, and sat himself in the back of the car, and his life ended sadly, aged 46. And of course, the official verdict was suicide. Leonard Nipper Reid, an extremely experienced policeman at the highest end of the chain. He, of course, he would have loved to have pinned the murder if he thought there was any evidence on the Krays. He found zero evidence. He accepted suicide, and as with Meyer Lanksy, the same, there were no evidence. But what we do know, Freddie had a witness that he got the rifle. Some people claimed it was for protection. If he was going to get a gun for protection, he would have got a better one than that. If a hitman had killed him, they would have got a better one than that. Freddie knew the gun, knew its value of power, and sadly aimed it at himself. And yeah, so that's how it ended. And I hope I've given you a clear insight as to why and how. And I don't believe it was the Krays or Meyer Lanksy. It was Freddie Mills that killed Freddie Mills. And again, I'll end on the way of, I pray for his family, our good Lord Jesus Christ, his Saviour. Just see Freddie's death as an illness. There's so many people that take their life out there. It's just like any other illness. So thanks for tuning in. That's the way it ended for the legendary Freddie Mills. Remember to click and subscribe. Thanks for now, and you keep subscribing and I'll keep them coming. Take care.